Hey everybody, welcome to the Art of Comics. It's your host, Andre Salazar, and you know what? Today, I want to read some comics. I want to share comics because it is getting crazy out there, stressful, and if there's one thing that kind of gets me more excited, I can feel some endorphins, it can be happy, it's reading some comics and talking about them and studying the art and all that stuff because it's easy to get kind of down right now. So I hope that all of you are safe, healthy, your families are safe, and that you are being smart. So take care of yourselves and don't be going around giving people hugs and kisses, okay? That said, now let's talk about something that will make you super stoked about life and art, and it is Epic Illustrated. The Marvel magazine of adult fantasy. Remember, this is basically the publishers saw how successful heavy metal was, and they said, you know what, we got to capitalize on this. Let's make a magazine format and let's do these anthologies very similar to what heavy metal did and those other things. We can get around the comics code and we can sell this to a mature audience. So that's what they did. In this book, these magazines differ from heavy metal in a lot of reasons, in a lot of ways. One is, of course, they are more American, so the creators are more kind of America, where heavy metal is more kind of Euro based. And then we'll talk about some more things. But this has some great artists and great writers, and so I want to chat with you about it. This is October 1981. This is issue 8. So this is only a few years behind heavy metal. Heavy metal started in 76? Something like that? 78? I think it was 77 or 76. I think 76. So this is a few years past that. But yeah, this early 80s has got some really great issues. And this is the first one. We gotta talk about this cover. This cover is brilliant. I've actually seen the original of this. I worked for a short time as an assistant for Mr. Chaikin, and he is a phenomenal artist. He really got me turned on to a lot of these illustrators that I like a lot now, like Noel Sickles, Alex Toth, Bernie Fuse, Robert Fawcett, all those guys. Love their work, and he turned me on to all that kind of illustration stuff. He's a great artist and a good guy. Okay, there you go. So, brilliant. Just quickly talk about color and composition and design. Just a lot of really great things he's doing here. Purple and green, of course, complementary stuff. Just a lot of really neat kind of color choices. And I really like these kind of like images layered on top of each other. And this is a pretty big size work in acrylics that I saw. Okay. Probably 18 by 22, something like that. Maybe more. Okay, let's get into it. I thought this was kind of interesting. You don't see ads about like car repair and maintenance and things like that. So, they're definitely skewing towards the adults. These are the people who are buying the magazine, have cars, have to get the oil changed. So that's kind of interesting. I've never done these book things. I've always wanted to. I was either too young at the time or too poor or what have you. But I've always wanted to do one of these like book stuff. Okay, well, we're going to go about today. So we'll start just going in. This is kind of a fun little ad too. This Dungeons and Dragons adventure. I thought this was kind of cool. I don't remember the artist here. Oh, wait a minute. What? Willingham? That can't be... Oh, snap. Is this Bill Willingham? I wonder if this is his stuff. When he did Elementals, comment below, did Bill Willingham, did he do the art in Elementals? Did he do some of that art? I think he might have. This would be fascinating if he did this. It does kind of remind me a little bit of that. I love Fables. We should talk about Fables. Oh my gosh, that's another one. I gotta put that on the list. I love Fables. I'll just reread it and go through it with you guys. I love it so much. overview. This is because of notes and about the last couple issues. So not too exciting there. And this is probably my favorite story in the bunch, by author Sudum. I'm gonna say Sudum. Arthur Sudum. We see his a lot of work in heavy metal, right? He's well regarded as a great artist. What do I want to say about him? I mean, he's brilliant. I heard he's actually a little curmudgeon-y or a little bit difficult to deal with, or there was some kind of negative thing I heard about. But let me tell you, I don't know nothing about that. So I want to talk about this art and his beautiful work. Notice too, this is like they're not using boxes for the dialogue. I thought that was interesting. Let me think. Yeah, everything else does, but they're not doing that. I think this would not be so kosher nowadays. I think nowadays, we would separate that out. But I actually like it kind of melted in with the art. It just makes it a little difficult a couple times. But I love the silhouette. I love this kind of like half silhouette, kind of really deep, work. The line work, the creativity, this brilliant stuff. This evokes 70s heavy metal fantasy, like old Tolkien drawings, The Hobbit and things like that. Ralph Bashki, that kind of stuff. This really reminds me of that. I love his character design. This is a great panel. Here it's all shadowed out. This is really, really cool. You see this kind of stuff a lot. This like it's almost like a half silhouette where it blends into a silhouette, the modeling of the form. And I just love his character design, these creatures, and this, this here reminds me of kind of a John Gerard, Mobius type of a thing. I really like. Incorporating the dialogue is really good. This stuff is great. And there's a little bit of comedy to it and movement and even the colors. I just think this stuff is really brilliant. This panel coming out, these objects kind of coming out of the panel. This is almost like a, Roger Dean kind of like Yes cover, these kind of like alien world and watercolored. Really neat design and kind of character. And I like this. Yeah, this is another a good use of word balloons, right? Breaking it up, the figures in front of it, the word balloons are behind, but again, get that kind of silhouette kind of look, but with a lot of detail in the foldings of the jacket and the leather. So I love this stuff. This is stuff to study. He's using a lot of stipple and pointillism, things like that, which is great too. So this is all really good stuff. Again, look at that word balloon. And look at this, just explosion. This kind of like really three-dimensional, really kind of creating these volumetric kind of drawings. This is cool too. He does a lot of detail, but then you can go down in a more of a simplified, smaller scale. There's these different scales of drawing. Some people are really good at drawing like heavy detailed stuff, right? Like we just saw, like drawing like close-ups. And some are better at kind of more medium work. And then there's those who kind of do this like cartoony from a distance, small stuff. And he can do it all. And this is great, like violence and creative stuff. Yeah. Arthur Sudum is amazing. Love his stuff. Now this one is interesting too. I don't know who Mark Wheatley is, but I thought this was cool because I have never seen a comic like this, where you're using kind of illustrations, but then a comic's on the side. So it's kind of mixing like story, picture book kind of illustration stories, prose, but then we're also having these kind of a strip to go along with it, which I think that's just really cool. I really like that idea of kind of really using the page differently. So I'm a big fan of that. This really shows the low quality of the paper, because the paper is this kind of a, it's not cheap, but it's just like a flat newsprint. And I would say generally I like that, but on something like this, you gotta go with the higher paper, the glossier stuff, the stuff that like Heavy Metal was printed on, because it just doesn't read well. It's muddy. It doesn't feel right, you know. Like, even look at this. Here's the Heavy Metal. I'll just grab one. Look at this, and you can see the colors just pop better. This nicer paper. It does have a more of a gloss kind of sheen to it, but I feel like you can get better colors on this paper. This is like crap paper, and I think we're just losing a lot of the vibrancy in these pieces because of it. So, a bit of a fail. Like, this is probably amazing. This original is probably great, but just this paper just makes it look kind of trashy, which is a real bummer. Because these guys spend a lot of freaking time making these drawings and paintings. Some champagne. That's kind of interesting. Little ad. This was interesting by Trina Robbins, and I'm not familiar with that name. Comment if you know who that is, or give me a word up on that. But I like the cleanliness of it. I like how they're using color in here. It's a little basic, but I dig it. So, no bad on that. It's all good. It's only a couple pages. Now, if you don't know this, if you don't know what this is all about, and how Bernie Wrightson made these beautiful, and they were kind of large. I'm going to say it, they were at least 13 by 19, I think. And there were these prints that came in a portfolio. And I'm not sure if they were ever printed in like a version of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or if it was always just this kind of a art project. I don't know. I'd like to know if these were published in a book as well. But it was a series of prints he did, and they're beautiful. And this video does not do it justice. You really gotta go find some high-res versions, or find, maybe there's an artist edition. Maybe the Bernie Wrightson artist edition has some of these. But they're so freaking good. And the line work is just amazing. You just think about the days or weeks to draw this. And I'd say days, not weeks. But, just the level of detail, all looks like through Coquille, some sort of a hunt or a G-pen, something like that. Just amazing stuff. So he's just dipping in there and just going, and just great stuff, dude. Love to see the pencils too. I love to see how tight the pencils were, or how he's doing that. That would be kind of a fun project. I'm a big fan of Craig Russell. His stuff is really cool. Different, of course, than this, but it's got a nice brush line work to it. And these are really cool too. This was ElfQuest, right? Yeah, ElfQuest. Here, Marshall Rogers. Marshall Rogers is great. He's a big design guy too. He did some really good Batman episodes. Batman issues of some comics that I could look up and try to share with you guys. They're pretty cool too. I dig it. So this is just kind of showing all these different art pieces. Austin and John Byrne. Oh, I love Michael Kaluta. Michael Kaluta with Starstruck. So these are all portfolios. So it must have been kind of a thing back then where, this one is so good by Al Williamson. This one I would love to get. This one I actually would want more than all of them, because the different types of marks he's doing here. He's using so many different types of tools and marks to show all these various textures and depths. It's really neat. I mean, there's 6-7 layers of different things happening through here, and using all types of instruments to do this. And I think it's really cool. This would be fun in color too. Yeah, big fan of that one. This is kind of neat too. I just like this, the framing of this. And I wonder if this was actually black and white. Color. I bet this was color, and they just didn't print that way. Here's a story by Jim Starlin. I'm not a big fan of these Jim Starlin ones, and I love his stuff from Marvel. He did. I know he did a lot of other great work, but these stories where I think he's maybe thinking outside the box, he's kind of got a little less rules, and he has more freedom to kind of express and try things. And I think he is trying things. It is kind of interesting, but I'm just not feeling the rendering so much, and the colors and everything feels a little clunky. Just saying, okay? I'm not trying to hurt no one's feelings. Just saying. This, on contrast, is a little more interesting for me. Tim Conrad. This is called Contact, and it's really kind of neat, like airbrush and acrylics. Again, these paintings, man, these take a long time. Now, you got to remember, too, these anthologies, they're only having to paint, 6-8 pages or so. So you can bang that out. But there's no way you could paint like this monthly, a full book. You could do a few pages, but, I mean, just the man hours to kind of pull this up. He's using photography reference, of course, not a problem with that. And then just drawing all this out and planning it, and it just takes a lot. It's a lot of work, but I dig it. This is kind of fun. These like different types of futuristic, virtual kind of where balloons are neat. I like what they're going for. I like all the kind of the interesting ideas they're pulling with this one. This is kind of a fun one. So I like this. Really neat page compositions. I mean, he's really trying. Where I felt the Starling is just very basic and just like, I don't know. I'm not feeling that one. Oh gosh. Love Charles Vess. I think he is brilliant. I mean, when it comes to like nature, there's a particular one in here that's just really great to see the way he draws. Where is it? Yeah, no, that's not this. It's later on. This is a great pose too. Just really cool work. I'm a big fan of his nature and trees and forests and organic things, and it's just really kind of neat. I really like him a lot. Oh, what is this one? I like this though. What is this? Oh yeah, Punk Zone. This is by Mike Sense and Denny Dolly, and I dig this too. This has got a kind of a I'm gonna say retro vibe, but it's got kind of a interesting way to paint all these white backgrounds and stuff. It's kind of cool. I dig it. This one feels more European, kind of in a way, I would say. Some shots of Alien. Oh yeah, we're talking about the media. Denny O'Neil writes this article about like Superman 2's coming out. High Noon, Outland is coming out, which was kind of like a High Noon in space, around the time of Alien, Raiders of the Lost Ark. All these things are coming out right now. I mean, the early 80s were full of sci-fi. Sci-fi was like the big genre. After Star Wars and Alien in 2001, all those were like in the 70s. 2001 actually might have been in the late 60s. After all those came out, the 80s is when it was like, okay, we're doing sci-fi. We're doing hard. So you see tons of sci-fi movies. A lot of them bad, but some are pretty good. And bad or good, it's just fun to see the genre kind of like get really kind of creative in how to tell a story and stuff like that. This is really neat. I like his line work. I like all the values, through the line. And yet he's not afraid to do silhouettes too. I mean, he's really using the blacks perfectly. This is made for a black and white comic. I mean, clearly you can see that so well. That's a great way to show that too, right? If this was all black, it wouldn't work. But if every other black, you kind of can see how that works better. These trees are great. And there's one panel I really thought, oh, is this here? Yeah, the last one. I mean, look at this. This, again, took a long time to render out, but just the roots, the lines, the organic kind of quality to it, the druid kind of, look to it. It's just really great. Big fan of Charles Vess. Last story here, I think, is Shiny Bees. This is Rick Veitch. I like him a lot. I need to get Rat Pack. I don't have that. That's in my next thing to do. But he's very experimental, mature themes, always kind of coming up with something new and different. And this is a wordless comic, and it looks just really neat. So I'm a big fan of him as well. So there you go. And then some tape player. Remember that. So there you go. That's the issue. Kind of a quick one. Thanks a lot for watching, you guys. Appreciate it. Hit the bell icon and check out my Patreon if you want to see my other comics. I got a new podcast. It's not always about comics. It's about all kinds of stuff. Called Andre Salazar Podcast. Boom. Pretty simple. Andre Salazar Podcast. It's on Spotify, Anchor, iTunes, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, thanks a lot. Have a great week and be safe out there.